They told you Adam was the first man, but what if he wasn't? What if before his breath ever touched the dust, another creation walked this same earth, radiant, powerful, and forgotten? The forbidden creation before Adam, a truth so ancient it was buried beneath light itself. For centuries, this mystery has whispered through scripture and silence. Why does Genesis begin with a world already broken, formless and void? Has something been erased, hidden from mankind's memory since the dawn of time? What if God once created another world, one that fell before humanity even began? In this video, you will discover what God hid before Adam, the lost creation that changed heaven and earth forever. Together, we will uncover why light had to be spoken twice, why the first world was drowned in shadow, and how its echo still lives inside your spirit today. Imagine the ruins of that world may still lie beneath your feet, the memory of it pulsing quietly in your soul. This is not just ancient history. It is your story too, because every soul carries a trace of the world God remade. So stay with me. Open your heart as we walk back to the beginning before beginnings, to the moment when pride shattered paradise and love began its long road to redemption. You will understand why what God hid was not punishment, but protection, and why knowing this changes everything. Before we begin, I want to hear from you. Do you believe something existed before Adam? Could your spirit be remembering a light older than the sun? Share your thoughts below, and if this message stirs something deep inside you, like and subscribe, so together we can keep uncovering the hidden truth God left for those who still seek His light. Before the light was spoken, there was silence. A silence so deep it could be felt like the echo of a heart that had stopped beating. The earth lay hidden under waters of chaos, shrouded in a darkness older than time. And yet, within that darkness, something remembered. The ruins of a world long gone still, whispered in the deep fragments of a creation that had been once holy, now fallen. Somewhere in that endless quiet, the Spirit of God moved. It hovered, not to destroy, but to redeem. Because before Adam was formed, there had been another creation, radiant, powerful, and filled with glory, the first children of light. They were the sons of God, spoken of in the oldest pages of Scripture, the Bene Elohim, divine beings made not from dust, but from brilliance. They ruled the heavens and the earth with wisdom, yet within them burned a seed of pride, the same seed that once whispered to Lucifer, "You can be more than what you are." And pride, when fed, becomes a fire. Lucifer, the most beautiful of all, turned that fire into rebellion. He desired a throne above the stars, a kingdom that did not depend on love, but on power. The heavens trembled as the first sin was born, not murder, not deceit, but pride. That pride split eternity, turning angels into adversaries and light into shadow. It was not an earthly war. It was a war of hearts. The purest beings ever made turned against the very source that gave them life, and as their rebellion filled the heavens, creation itself convulsed. Stars fell, the light dimmed, and the earth, once a jewel, became formless and void. This is why Genesis 1-2 speaks not of beginning, but of aftermath. The earth was without form because it had been shattered. It was void because the glory that once filled it had departed. And darkness was upon the face of the deep, not a natural night, but the shadow of judgment. Have you ever looked at your own life and seen the same thing? A heart once full of light, now empty. Dreams once shining, now buried beneath your own mistakes. The story of that first creation is the story of us, how pride destroys and how mercy rebuilds. Because God could have ended it there. He could have erased it all. But He didn't. Instead, His Spirit moved again, not over perfection, but over ruin, not over beauty, but over ashes. Let there be light, It was not the first time light existed, it was the first time light returned. That one sentence was not about creation, it was about restoration. God was telling the universe, I am not done yet. And maybe that's what He's telling you right now. No matter how broken you feel, no matter how dark the waters that cover your soul, the same Spirit that moved over the ancient deep is moving over you. The idea of the gap, that silent space between Genesis 1:1 and 1:2, is not just a theory. It's a reminder that God works in the pauses. Between the glory that was and the light that will be, there is a holy silence, a space where healing begins. Theologians call it the gap theory, but in the language of the heart, it is the mercy between. The time when God does not destroy, but waits. He lets the chaos settle before He speaks again. And how often has He done that in our lives? We lose something precious, everything falls apart, and heaven seems silent. But the silence is not abandonment. It is the moment before light returns. The ancient prophets sensed it. Isaiah wrote, He did not create the earth to be empty. Jeremiah saw visions of a world before Adam, filled with cities and voices. Then suddenly, it was gone, reduced to wasteland. What could erase a whole civilization? Not a flood of water, a flood of pride. Maybe that's why humility is the first step toward light. Pride destroys worlds. Humility rebuilds them. And so, in that sacred gap, God began again. He said, Let there be light. And the light shone not just on matter, but on mercy. But before Adam, there were still echoes of that first creation. The fallen beings, the spirits of pride, the whispers of the forbidden world. Their memory lingered in the shadows of Eden, watching as God formed a new creation from dust. A being who would walk the earth not in glory, but in grace. You see, Adam was not made to be powerful. He was made to be loved. The first creation fell because they wanted to be gods. Adam was different. He was born to walk with God. When God shaped Adam, He didn't speak him into being like the stars. He touched the earth. He bent down. The Creator's hands entered the dust. That moment was intimate, personal love becoming form. The same hands that flung galaxies now traced the curve of a man's face. And then came the breath, the divine exhale. The spirit that once moved over the waters now entered flesh. And for the first time, dust carried the heartbeat of eternity. Why start over with something so fragile? Because strength had failed the first time. Pride had broken perfection. So God chose weakness, the humility of dust, as the foundation for a love that could never be lost again. It's easy to see Adam's story as ancient history, but it's the blueprint of every heart. Each of us is created from the dust of old mistakes and the breath of new hope. Each of us carries both ruin and redemption inside. And maybe that's why the story of the forbidden creation still resonates, because it reminds us that failure doesn't end the story. It begins the healing. There's a quiet mystery hidden in Genesis 1, and the Spirit of God moved upon the face of the waters. The Hebrew word for moved is rachaf. It means to flutter, like a mother bird hovering over her nest. That's the image of God over the ruined earth, not angry, but protective, not distant, but tender. He hovered over destruction the same way He hovers over your pain, waiting for the moment you'll let Him speak light again. The first creation was radiant but proud. The second was humble but redemptive. That is the great reversal of love. God does not choose the perfect. He perfects the chosen. He does not look for strength. He looks for surrender. And that's why Adam was made not from fire, not from light, but from soil, because redemption always begins low. The first world was made of glory, but it fell into darkness. The second world was made from dust, but it was crowned with light. That is the heart of divine irony, that what is weak becomes holy, and what was proud becomes lost. Lucifer fell because he wanted to rise. Adam rose because he was willing to kneel. Think about that. Every time we choose humility over pride, compassion over judgment, surrender over control, we rewrite that ancient story. We heal what the first world broke. You may not remember the forbidden creation, but your soul does. That's why you ache for things you can't explain: peace, light, belonging. It's the echo of Eden and the memory of what came before. We all come from dust, but the dust remembers light. Today, when we see the world chasing power, knowledge, and control, we are witnessing the same temptation that destroyed the first creation. We want to build towers that touch the heavens, technology that rivals creation, science that bends life itself. But wisdom without humility is still forbidden fruit. Maybe that's why the Bible keeps repeating the same pattern: creation, fall, redemption. Not because God fails, but because he keeps teaching love through loss. And maybe that's why he hid the first creation from us, not to conceal truth, but to protect us from repeating it too soon. Some knowledge is sacred because the heart is not ready. Some truths are hidden until love can handle them. You might wonder why any of this matters. Why speak of forgotten worlds and fallen angels? Because their story is our mirror. Every one of us has a gap between what was and what will be, a place where something beautiful once stood and now lies in ruins. But the same God who said, "Let there be light," is still speaking, not just in Scripture, in you. If your life feels formless and void, if your heart is covered by waters too deep to see the light, remember, the Spirit still moves over the face of your chaos, and when he speaks, everything changes. Maybe that's why the forbidden creation had to fall, so you could learn that love, once lost, can still be found again. And now I want to ask you, not as a preacher, but as a fellow traveler through this mystery. Do you feel it? Does something inside you ache for a light you've never seen but somehow remember? What if that's not imagination? What if it's memory? A memory older than Adam, older than Eden, the echo of the world that once was, and the promise of the one that will be restored. Share what you feel below. Let's talk about it. Because maybe, just maybe, the story of the forbidden creation is not about the past at all. Maybe it's about the part of you God is still recreating today. And when you leave this place, remember this: you are not the ruins, you are the rebirth. The Spirit that moved over the waters still moves through you, and one day, through your darkness too, he will say again, "Let there be light." Beneath the calm surface of the waters, something ancient still slept. The deep carried memory, an echo of the world that had fallen before Adam's first breath. The waves whispered stories older than history, where beings of light once walked the earth before pride consumed their hearts. The ruins of that forbidden world were buried in silence, waiting for God's voice to break the endless dark once more. And then he spoke. The command came like thunder through eternity. "Let there be light." The waters trembled. The darkness tore open, and light returned, not new but reborn. That moment was not simply about illumination. It was about redemption. God was rewriting his creation story with mercy, not fire. He was showing the universe that even after devastation, light could still rise again. That's why every sunrise is a reminder of Genesis. Each morning is a quiet retelling of the moment when mercy triumphed over ruin. You and I, we wake up each day to the same miracle, the chance to begin again. But before man stood in Eden, before there was breath or name, the earth still carried the scars of what came before. Buried beneath layers of time, there were remnant spiritual fingerprints of the first creation. The shadows of that age would one day whisper again, testing the new world's heart. And that's where the story of Adam begins, not in perfection, but in restoration. When the dust of the earth met the breath of God, something beautiful happened. The divine and the fragile became one. Adam opened his eyes, not in the chaos of darkness, but in a garden of light. Yet the earth around him was not entirely new. It was reborn ground, carrying both blessing and warning. Imagine waking up in a place where everything is alive, light dancing through trees, rivers singing through gold-colored soil, every breeze carrying the scent of heaven. But somewhere beneath your feet, the old world still murmurs, "Remember what pride did to us." Eden was not only paradise, it was a second chance. God did not build it on untouched land. He built it over redemption's ashes. That's why the soil of Eden was sacred. It had seen both fall and forgiveness. And isn't that just like our lives? We all have our own Eden's moments of new beginnings that sit atop our old failures. Sometimes we forget that the most fertile ground for grace is the soil that's been broken. Adam's story is not only about creation, it's about how love begins again after destruction. As Adam walked the garden, something deep in him sensed the mystery. He was new, but the world felt ancient. He would gaze at the stars and feel a strange familiarity, as if his soul had seen them before. Perhaps that was the residue of divine memory, the same breath that hovered over the waters now living in him. God gave Adam the gift of awareness, the ability to name, to see meaning in all things. Naming was not just labeling, it was communion. When Adam looked at the lion, he didn't just speak a word. He recognized its purpose. When he named the river, he felt its story. Every sound he uttered carried the echo of creation's heartbeat. But even in paradise, loneliness found him. Because perfection without connection is still empty. So God created Eve not from the ground, but from Adam's side. Not from his head, to rule over him, nor from his feet, to be ruled by him, but from his heart, to walk beside him. She was not an afterthought. She was the embodiment of love shared. For a time, harmony reigned again. The garden glowed with innocence. Every sunrise brought songs of worship that rose like mist. The animals knew peace, the earth yielded without labor, and the first humans walked in the direct presence of the Creator. But paradise never exists without a test. At the edge of the garden stood the tree of knowledge, the same forbidden spark that had destroyed the first creation. It was not evil in itself. It was sacred, but sacred things can destroy those who touch them unprepared. The serpent waited there, coiled between the roots, patient and ancient. He was no mere animal. He was the echo of the rebellion, the remnant of that first fallen light. He knew what knowledge could do. He had once held it and lost it. He whispered to Eve not with anger, but with reason. God knows that when you eat of it, you will be like him. It was the same lie spoken in the heavens ages ago, now rephrased in human language. The serpent's voice didn't sound monstrous. It sounded logical, desirable, even kind. That's how deception works. It always disguises itself as wisdom. Eve looked at the fruit. It was beautiful, like forbidden light made tangible. She saw knowledge, freedom, power. She reached out, and the echo of the first fall began again. When Adam and Eve ate, their eyes opened, but not to enlightenment. They opened to loss. Innocence shattered, and creation trembled once more. The same pride that had once corrupted the beings of light now entered the hearts of those made from dust. But here is the miracle. This time, God did not destroy them. The first creation fell and was buried in darkness. The second fell too, but mercy stood in the middle. Instead of annihilation came redemption. God covered their nakedness with garments of grace. The fall became the first lesson of love, that mercy is stronger than judgment. Have you ever felt like Adam and Eve standing in the ruins of your own choices, realizing too late what you've lost? We all have. We all taste forbidden fruit in our own ways through pride, anger, or the longing to control what was never ours. But what matters most is not the fall itself, it's what comes after. Even when the gates of Eden closed, the promise remained open. God said a Savior would come, one who would crush the serpent's head. That single promise bridged the entire distance between the forbidden creation and the final redemption. And maybe that's what your heart needs to remember. You are not banished forever. You are in the space between fall and return, the same space where light waits to rise again. When we look at the world today, we see reflections of both Edens, the one that fell before Adam, and the one that fell after. We build cities that touch the sky, create knowledge faster than wisdom, and chase glory without grace. We call it progress, but sometimes it feels like we're rebuilding the same tower that once crumbled, the Tower of Babel, the monument of human pride. Technology, artificial intelligence, the hunger for control over life and death. These are our new forbidden fruits. They promise light but often bring shadow. Humanity, again, is standing at the tree. The question is the same. Will we reach for power or surrender to love? The story of the forbidden creation isn't a myth, it's a mirror. Every generation stands before its own version of the forbidden tree. Every soul must decide whether to repeat the first rebellion or live in humility and trust. And here's the truth that heals. God never stopped creating. Even now, He is making new hearts, new beginnings, new worlds within us. The same voice that said, "Let there be light," still speaks every time a broken person forgives, every time a weary soul chooses hope over despair. Maybe you've lived through your own version of Eden, a time when everything felt right, only to lose it. Maybe you've looked at your life and thought, it will never be whole again. But the Bible begins with darkness for a reason, to show that even from chaos, God can craft beauty. Think of a seed, it must be buried in darkness before it grows. The same is true for you. Your pain is not the end. It's the soil where resurrection begins. When Adam left the garden, he didn't leave grace behind. Grace walked with him. And that's the promise for you too. Wherever you go, whatever you've lost, love goes with you. You see, the forbidden creation was not erased, it was redeemed through the story of humanity. The ruins of the first world became the foundation for the second. The same earth that once bore rebellion now carries redemption. That's how God works. He doesn't waste pain, He transforms it. Every wound in your life can become a well of healing for someone else. Every failure can be the seed of wisdom. Every loss can become an altar where light returns. And when you realize this, you begin to understand why God hid certain truths from us, not to punish, but to protect. Some revelations require a healed heart to handle. Some power must wait until love is strong enough to guide it. That's why He doesn't always give us what we ask for, because sometimes mercy withholds what pride would destroy. So, as you listen, breathe. Feel the weight of this truth. The same Spirit that hovered over the chaos before Adam now hovers over you. You are living proof that light can rise from ruin. Take a moment and reflect, what forbidden fruit have you tasted in your life? What knowledge or ambition pulled you away from peace? And more importantly, what light might be waiting to return once you surrender it? Write your thoughts below. Share your reflections. Maybe your story will help someone else find their own dawn. Because this isn't just the story of the first world. It's the story of every heart that's ever fallen and found its way home. And when you wake tomorrow, let the morning light remind you, you are standing in the same mercy that once recreated the earth. You are not forgotten. You are being remade. And just like that first sunrise over the waters, God is still whispering into the depths of your soul, "Let there be light." The night after Eden's fall must have been silent. No birds sang. No wind carried joy. The moon looked down on a world that had just broken its own heart. Yet even in that silence, something deeper was at work. God had not left. Love had not withdrawn. The light that once shone over the first creation now began its journey toward redemption, a long, slow dawn that would take centuries to break through. The forbidden knowledge had done its work. Humanity now knew both good and evil, not in theory, but in their own hearts. For the first time, pain entered creation, not as punishment, but as proof that free will was real. Adam and Eve stepped into the unknown, carrying with them both the weight of loss and the seed of promise. And that seed would one day bloom into salvation. This is the paradox of divine mercy. Even when humanity walks away from light, God walks with them into the dark. As generations passed, the world changed again. Men began to build, to dream, to fight. The echo of that first forbidden creation began to awaken within them the same thirst for power, the same curiosity for hidden things. Ancient civilizations rose from the dust. Sumer, Egypt, Babylon. They looked to the stars and remembered fragments of truths buried deep within their collective soul. The ancients spoke of gods who came from the heavens, of beings who once ruled before the flood. These were not mere myths, they were distorted memories of the first rebellion. The fallen ones, the remnants of that forbidden creation, still roamed in shadow, whispering into the hearts of kings and prophets alike. They taught forbidden arts not to bless, but to enslave. Knowledge, once meant to serve love, was twisted again into a weapon of pride. And still, God was patient, because love does not rush redemption. When you look at the world today, at the wars, the hunger for control, the obsession with knowledge and domination, it's the same story repeating itself. Humanity, once again, is trying to become its own god. We clone life, manipulate DNA, command machines to think. We stand at the edge of another forbidden tree. But the lesson of Eden still stands. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. In every age, God leaves a voice, a reminder that light is not gone. Noah stood as one of those voices. When the world grew violent and corrupted, God told him to build an ark, not just to preserve life, but to preserve hope. The flood was not vengeance, it was cleansing, a reset, a second recreation. Much like the first, let there be light. And that's what God keeps doing. He allows the darkness to rise only so light can prove stronger. He allows destruction so rebirth can follow. He allows us to fall so that grace can teach us how to rise. Perhaps you've felt that in your own life, a flood of chaos washing away everything familiar, everything you thought you needed. Maybe what you thought was punishment was actually preparation. Maybe what felt like loss was God building you an ark away through the storm. Because sometimes, love has to take everything away to remind you that light isn't found in what you own. It's found in who you are when the water recedes. The forbidden knowledge never truly disappeared. It has always waited, tempting every generation in new disguises. In our time, it comes in the form of digital gods, artificial intelligence, and the promise of immortality through science. Humanity's hunger for the divine has not vanished, it has simply changed its shape. We create machines to mirror our minds and call it progress. We merge with technology and call it evolution. But beneath the surface, the old whisper returns, "You will be like God." It sounds noble, even inspiring, until you realize it's the same lie that began the first war in heaven. The serpent never stops speaking. It only changes its language. Maybe that's why your spirit sometimes feels tired when you scroll through endless screens, when everything around you promises knowledge but leaves you emptier. Because the soul doesn't live on information. It lives on connection, on truth that heals, not inflates. And so we stand again before the tree, not in a garden, but in a world of glowing screens and restless hearts. The question remains, will we reach for power, or will we reach for love? Through all of this, God's plan of redemption unfolds quietly. He does not shout over the noise of human pride. He whispers into hearts that still listen. The prophets carried this whisper. They saw glimpses of a coming light that would undo the curse, a Messiah, one who would not rise in pride, but stoop in humility. When Christ came, the earth trembled because for the first time since Eden, God walked again among his creation, not in judgment, but in flesh. He became the second Adam, rewriting the story where the first failed. Adam took and fell. Jesus gave and rose. Through his sacrifice, the forbidden became forgiven. The curse was reversed, not by force, but by surrender. The oldest wound, pride, was healed by the deepest act of humility. And that is the heart of all healing. Love does not demand to be worshipped. It kneels to wash your feet. Imagine this. Every time you choose compassion over anger, forgiveness over revenge, humility over ego, you are aligning with that same divine reversal. You are participating in God's quiet rebellion against darkness. You are becoming light in the void. That's what faith truly is, not a set of beliefs, but a living restoration of the first creation's lost harmony. The forbidden creation fell because it tried to become God without God. You rise when you let God become himself through you. That's why the gospel matters not as religion, but as redemption. It's not about escaping the world, but healing it from within. When Jesus said, "You are the light of the world," he was not giving a title. He was reminding you of your origin. You come from light. You were made for light. And even if you've fallen, the light still recognizes you. Maybe today you feel distant from that truth. Maybe your heart feels cold, your faith quiet, your hope buried under years of disappointment. But remember this, the first world fell, and still God said, "Let there be light." The second world fell, and still he sent his Son. Do you really think he will give up on you now? Even your silence is sacred to him. Even your brokenness can become the altar where light returns. There is a saying in Hebrew mysticism, the light enters through the crack. That is how God works. He doesn't need your perfection, he needs your openness. The same Spirit that hovered over the waters now hovers over your wounds. So let him speak again. Let him say into your chaos, your shame, your waiting, "Let there be light." Sometimes we make the mistake of thinking that God hides knowledge to keep us small, but maybe he hides it to keep us safe. The forbidden creation reached too high, too fast. It tried to seize eternity without understanding love. But eternity without love is not heaven, it's hell disguised as brilliance. When your heart aches for answers, for hidden truths, for mysteries too vast to name, pause. Ask yourself, am I reaching for wisdom, or am I reaching for control? Because one heals and the other destroys. You don't need to know every mystery to walk in peace. You only need to trust that the one who holds the mysteries loves you. That's the ultimate revelation, that what God hid was never meant to be lost. It was meant to be found in him. And maybe this is what the first creation never understood. Power without love becomes destruction, but love without power becomes redemption. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to stay close to the light. Because when you walk with the light, even your shadows become testimonies. Every tear, every scar, every mistake can be rewritten into something holy. The same God who rebuilt the world from formlessness can rebuild your heart from failure. Think about your own story, the times you've fallen, the times you felt void inside. Each time, light found you again, didn't it? That's no accident. That's Genesis still unfolding in you. So tonight, if you're listening, take this moment as sacred. You are part of a story that began before Adam, before the stars, before time itself. You are not a mistake of history. You are the continuation of God's secret plan to turn every fall into resurrection. And when the sun rises tomorrow, let it speak to you like scripture. There is always light after darkness. There is always healing after loss. There is always love after fear. That is the hidden law of creation, the truth God built into every dawn. So, as this story lingers in your heart, I invite you to share your thoughts below. Do you believe the first world truly existed, a creation before Adam, buried beneath our feet and hidden in our souls? Or do you believe that creation is still unfolding within us now that we are living chapters of that same divine redemption? Whatever you believe, remember this: you are not just part of history, you are part of restoration. And one day, when all creation sings again, your light will rise with his, and the story that began before Adam will end in glory, not with darkness, but with love. Until then, keep walking in the light, keep healing where you can, and keep believing that even in the quiet, God is still whispering the same eternal words that created everything. Let there be light. The night fades, the story quiets, and somewhere between the last word and the silence that follows, peace begins to bloom again. My friend, if you've walked with me through this journey from the ruins of the first creation to the light of the new, then something inside you already knows. The story was never just about Adam or Eden or the world that fell. It was always about you, about the breath of God that still lingers inside your chest, about the light that refuses to die, even when darkness presses close. Because no matter how far the world drifts, the Creator never leaves. His love is not a chapter that ends, it is the ink that writes every new beginning. Somewhere, deep inside the silence of your own heart, there is a garden still waiting to bloom. It may be covered in years of pain, loss, and unspoken prayers, but the soil still remembers the warmth of his hands. The same hands that formed Adam from dust, the same spirit that hovered over the waters, now rests over you, gentle, patient, ready to whisper, "Let there be light." You are not the fall, you are the return. You are not the ruin, you are the rebuilding. And when God looks at you, he does not see what broke, he sees what is becoming whole again. So breathe. Let grace fill the spaces where guilt once lived. Let hope rise where despair once reigned. The light that began before time is not done shining, it still seeks every heart willing to be found. Maybe tonight your soul feels tired. Maybe you carry the weight of mistakes that no one else sees. But the beauty of God's mercy is that he never asks you to earn forgiveness. He asks you to receive it. Because love was never a reward. It was always the design. Think of how gentle the dawn arrives. It doesn't shout. It doesn't force its way in. It simply begins to glow, slowly, softly, until every shadow surrenders. That's what healing feels like. That's what grace does, and it's what he's doing in you, even now. The first creation fell through pride. The second was redeemed through humility. And the third, the one still unfolding in your heart, will be completed through love. That is the sacred rhythm of eternity. Fall, rise, redeem, repeat, until everything becomes light again. You see, every story that ever mattered, from the garden to the cross, from your first heartbreak to your quietest prayer, has always been about restoration. God's story is not a tragedy. It is a love letter written in stars and tears and second chances. And tonight, that letter is addressed to you. So, if you're standing at the edge of something uncertain, if life feels dark, confusing, or heavy, I want you to remember this. The same voice that spoke to the formless earth is still speaking to your soul. You may not hear it in thunder or fire. You may hear it in the quiet of your own heartbeat. But it's there, soft, steady, faithful. He is still saying, "I am not done." As you go back to your world, to your family, your work, your battles, carry this truth with you. You were created not once, but twice. Once from dust and once from love. And no shadow, no sin, no failure can erase that. The forbidden creation may have fallen, but through you, God's dream continues. Every act of kindness you show, every word of forgiveness you speak, every prayer whispered through tears, all of it rebuilds the light that once was lost. You are the proof that heaven still reaches for earth. And when your days grow weary, look up at the sky. The same stars that watched the first creation burn still watch over you, not in judgment, but in blessing. The universe remembers your name, because the one who made it carved you into its story. If this message brought warmth to your heart, if it reminded you that even broken stories can become beautiful again, I invite you to share your thoughts below. Tell me what you felt, what memories stirred, what light began to move inside you. Your voice matters. It may be the healing someone else is waiting to hear. And if this message touched your spirit in a dark moment, I invite you to support this work with a little energy so that together we can keep spreading light, hope, and the Word of God to hearts that have forgotten how to shine. Every act of support, no matter how small, carries infinite meaning in His eyes. Before we part, let me speak this prayer over you. May the light that was spoken before time now dwell within you. May every wound in your past become a doorway for grace. May you walk gently, knowing heaven walks with you. And may your life in all its broken, beautiful pieces become a testimony that even dust can glow when touched by divine love. If the night ever feels too long, remember dawn is faithful. And if your heart ever forgets, let these words remind you. You are loved, you are seen, you are chosen. Not because you are perfect, but because you are His. Thank you for walking this journey with me. Thank you for letting the ancient story become your own. Until we meet again, keep your heart open, your light alive, and your faith steady, for the same God who began creation is still creating through you. May peace cover you like morning light. May love follow you like your own shadow. And may every breath remind you that you were made for eternity.